I've never done this before, so there is no script. There were just like a flow of inspirational thoughts a while ago, and so I decided that I'm just gonna start and just let that flow through me. So yeah, I was thinking a little bit about betrayal. I thought I'll make a video about that, and it was, are you feeling betrayed? And if you are, then simply don't. Okay, suppose you were in a relationship with someone and that person had an affair and they left you for someone else. Or say you were, feeling like you were feeling cheated by your family members on some property thing, or anything, like a situation that you are currently in or you can imagine. The reality is that you were in a loving relationship with someone, they have left you for another person because they had some sort of affair or whatever was the reason. The reason is not important. This is the fact, and you feel sad because of it. Yes, and then comes the story. Oh, how could they do this to me? Oh, this always happens to me. Oh, maybe I am always the victim. They left me for this person. Maybe I am lower than them. I'm so unworthy. Or maybe I'm going to show them what it is like and I'm going to make them feel regret. This is the fiction part of it. This is where the ego comes in. The ego, which is the mind-made sense of self that always tries to keep you protected. You can see how this is a defense mechanism, right? So it creates the story in which you are at the center of that story, and these are the additional emotions which are simply irrelevant or which are unnecessary in this case. The feelings of unworthiness, guilt, confusion, victim identity, all of these have spurred from that innocent emotion of sadness which was due in this case. Yes, you are allowed to emote that emotion of sadness, just like there is a grieving period for any scenario. For example, say if you grieve a relationship, a person, say a person passed on, they died. So there is a grieving period, right, in which you are almost okay with feeling sad. You grieve for it, and then that emotion liberates itself, and that is it. That is how you emote. But when you are in that story, when you get trapped in that story, that is that emotional baggage that you keep adding onto your ego, your mind-made sense of self, and it creates a even more addictive cocktail, which is fueled by guilt. And then it was the guilt and all of those fear-based emotions that automatically got added on to your emotional baggage. And there is that emotional baggage of your partner which moves into which gets added into you. So understand that this is, and you can see how people suffer this, how you suffer this, how people around everywhere suffer because of this. And yeah, of course it is easier said than done, but as you get better at seeing the situation, as you get better at identifying at what is reality and what is the fiction, what is the ego and what is the presence, the observer of these emotions, once you can create this separation, then you will be much better at dissolving that story. That is the dissolution of ego, right? The story that you have created for yourself. Understand, everyone has a story. The way you have a story, that person also has a story. The person with whom they left, they also have a story. Now you can just see, there is one reality and there are three different versions of this story in such a small situation, in such a small scenario. You are feeling, say, disheartened. The person that left you, they are feeling confused. They are also confused and guilty maybe. And the third person, he is happy, he is ecstatic. Oh yes, he came out as the winner in this situation. So you can see how the dynamics work, right? And it's just one situation. You were with this person, they left you, and that's it. But because of this simple situation, because of the combination of all of these stories, there are additional emotions that arise, these negative or survival or fear based emotions that take birth, and it just causes suffering, and it just spreads and spreads and spreads. You can understand how, because of you, the people in your life are affected by your energy, by your emotions, by your story. How the person in the other person's life, everyone is affected, and then it basically spreads. So this is how it is. Don't think of this as me being very heartless or anything, but this is the truth. And when you are able to be rational and step out of it and see it, you will see the truth of it all, and then you can actually take steps towards just becoming wise and becoming a better, you're just evolving and understand. Now the next question that comes to mind is about trust. Your trust was broken by somebody because of so and so event. So what does trust mean? Does trust, basically, if you think about it, trust means there is freedom, right? Trust is based on freedom. You are giving the other person freedom to make that decision, and you trust their decision making abilities, right? There is a lot of responsibility in trust. So when you are expecting that other person to behave in so and so manner, that is not trust. That is not what it was all about in the first place. You decided to give them the responsibility to make their decisions, and you are okay with whatever decisions you are making. That is the definition or foundation of trust. So in any scenario, if a person has broken your trust, then it is just that you are ready to face the consequences. And does that mean that you are not going to trust the next time? You tell me, does that sound like the logical thing to do? In fact, now, yes, you are trusting, but there is wisdom. Once you have processed this scenario, this emotion, that memory becomes a part of your wisdom, and then you can use that to trust in a much better manner, in a more refined manner. Your definition of trust keeps getting refined. So when you are laying bondages on a person and expecting them to perform or behave in a certain way, that no, they were not supposed to break my heart. Yes, I know they were not supposed to break your heart, but in an ideal world, yes. But the fact of the matter is, life on earth is complicated. Because of certain scenarios, they broke your heart, and you feel sad because of that. And as part of your trust, when you say you trust someone, you take a promise that you are responsible for the decisions that they take, right or wrong, and that is okay. In this case, you are dealing with the break of trust, and that's fine. That is fine. And that should not mean that your ability to trust the next time reduces or diminishes. In fact, it should get better. You should be able to trust with the knowledge that such a consequence can occur, and that is your wisdom. And that is what you are here to learn, and that is how you become a much more smarter, wiser individual. Now you can say that why did they act like that? So understand that everyone always acts from their level of consciousness. Every individual, every living being has a different level of consciousness. A tree has a different level of consciousness. Animals have different level of consciousness. Within humans, we all have different level of consciousness. What do you mean by consciousness? Like in this case, how identified you are with the thoughts in your head, with the voice in your head. Now, when we say about enlightenment or awakening, what does it mean? It means awakening from the voice in your head. Because imagine, it is almost as if people are sleepwalking but with their eyes open. So whatever the brain is telling them, which is finally a conditioning of the past, the society, everything that they have seen, that is the voice. And it is telling them a certain thing. The way your mind is telling you certain things about this in this scenario, that maybe I feel pity for myself. You have a victim identity. I feel, how does this happen with me? This is not fair, this and that. So this is your ego, right? So in that sense, their voice in their head was maybe telling them that, okay, maybe, I don't know, in this case, we need to sleep with a stranger. That will increase my self-worth. And understand, this is happening subconsciously. You can't blame them. It is just happening, and they decided to act on that information, on that piece of information. And that's why they say that you cannot no one is guilty because they are unconscious. Forgive them, for they do not know what they do. This is something that is said by Jesus. Forgive them, for they do not know. They are sleepwalking with their eyes open. And you are as well on some degree. And that is the level of degree of awakening. Maybe someone who is, say, Sadguru or the Buddha, or anyone. Eckhart Tolle, these are my ideals. So I know their names are in my head. They have awakened from the voice in their head. And you and I, we have different degrees. Maybe I have awakened a little more now because of the inner work that I'm doing. You are maybe right now so identified, so is your partner or anything in this fictitious scenario, that they are completely listening to the voice in their head. And how can you blame them for that? How can you blame anyone for anything? Yes, but no one is guilty for their unconsciousness, but they will have to suffer for their unconsciousness. And by extension, you that became a part of their life, an important part of their life, will also suffer because of their unconsciousness. And the suffering part in this case for you, yes, you feel sadness because of what has happened, and you feel sadness, but you don't have to feel the rest of the cocktail of emotions that come along with it. You don't have to deal with their baggage or your past baggage and add more fuel to the fire. The way if someone close to you dies, you cry and feel the sadness, and that's it, right? But if you add the story to it, oh, that this has happened to me, this always happens to me, oh, I'm going to prove them wrong, this is the story that you are creating. This is the ego of your ego, which is the defense mechanism that it creates. You can see how this is a defense mechanism, right? But finally understand that it's the same. Energy, emotion is energy in motion. So understand, if you feel sadness in you, you feel anger in you, all that emotion that you're feeling as part of your ego, it is the same. All energy, emotions is energy in motion. It is that same energy that is love, which is transmuted into energy. It is the same emotion in you that can be transmuted into love, into fullness, into peace. Understand this fact. That's the thing. When you have anger, that's what they say when they say that the soul has fallen down into this earth to experience the emotion, because emotions is energy in motion. And then once you fall down, you realize that you have the power to create love or higher elevated emotions of these survival emotions. There is so much power in survival emotions. You can understand, right? The survival, the fear of death. There is so much power in fear that drives animals, that drives you, that creates a baby from you. Now, when that accumulation of all those emotions, imagine if you are a really angry person, or if you have a lot of guilt or a lot of anything, just imagine that is how much love you have. And that is how much depths of emotions you have gone through. And now it is your responsibility to turn that emotion into elevated emotions of love, joy, ecstasy, peace, happiness. And then imagine you work with that emotion and you can use it to manifest. You can manifest that emotion in different forms, in the form of some sort of artistry, or for making a video and sharing it with someone, or in football or anything. It is that emotion, that presence that will flow through you, and then your body and mind will only act as a vehicle for expressing those emotions, for expressing that state of being. Understand then that if something like this is happening with you, or any difficult situation is happening to you, there is a reason behind all this. There is this emotional part of it, but the higher part is that you are meant to come down over here to experience that emotion, to overcome that emotion, and find the energy behind it all. The emotion behind it all is what you need to overcome, and that is where your power lies. That is the gate that keeps you being your true self. Because you can understand, the ego keeps it, like, it's a defense. It keeps you protected from it by seeing it fully, by masking the reality with a story. You can understand how seductive this is, and how it can put someone to sleep with their eyes open. So understand this. In fact, I know it might sound very difficult for you to believe this or even participate in this, but we need to show more empathy and a state of compassion towards the person that did wrong to us. We need to give them our love, because imagine if you are struggling with your story, they have a separate story. They started the story to begin with. So you can imagine how dreadful the situation is, how much the suffering. Yes, they have wronged you, and they are probably sorry for it. In fact, would anyone do anything wrong to someone when they are conscious? That is not the nature of oneness, of source, of who you really are. But it is the survival part. It is the unconsciousness in society, in the fear-based society, which causes people to act out the voice in their head and act on their emotions. So let's take a moment and just feel love for everyone around us. We don't classify good and bad, enemy or friend. In fact, if anything, especially for our enemies, they are not your enemies. You and they are the same. It is the same consciousness. It's like the sun, the rays of the sun. You are a ray of the sun, I am a ray of the sun, they are a ray of a sun. That's the thing. We are an emanation of God. If the sun is the God, we are all an emanation of that same thing. And it is that same thing that connects all of us. So let's take a moment and just go inside. And let's feel love for everyone. Let our love and elevated emotions reach every part of this universe, especially the ones that were not so good to us, because they need it now more than ever. And you don't have to wait for this love to reach anywhere, because it's already in your heart. The universe is inside your heart. Everything is happening is inside of you. So if you feel something for someone, then it automatically reaches them, because it is already reached you. It is already in your heart. That is how the connection, the world is, the universe is connected. That is how so intimately the whole universe is connected. So that's why when you think of anger for someone else, where do you feel it? You feel it in your heart. It may reach them, it may not reach them and manifest into their life, but for 100% sure it will manifest in your life, because it is happening inside you. Anger is happening inside your heart and your heart and your hate and your head. So please don't feel betrayed. Please don't take it personally. Yes, it happened to you in person, but trust me, I speak for all of them. It was really not personal. It was just their unconsciousness. And you were unfortunately at the bearing end. And yes, as part of that, you are going to grieve it. You are going to grieve that your trust got broken, your heart was broken, and you're going to feel the sadness, emote it out, and move on. So it is time to accept the facts of the matter and move on in peace. Understand that you and them and everyone is a very beautiful soul at the heart of it all. But it is just that we all get seduced by the voice in our head, the ego, because of the fearful society that we live in. And that's okay. But slowly and surely, we all have to awaken from the voices in our head and let the beautiful soul that we are come out. And that is when true genius flows. That is when, once you overcome the emotional baggage that you have and turn it into elevated emotions, you are the alchemist. You have the ability to turn that hate, that guilt, that anger into elevated emotions of love, joy, peace. And then you can use that to manifest You are a creator. It is time we embody the divine creators, the divine dreamers that we are, and create a better society, a loving society for yourselves and for everyone around you. So again, thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.